So this is my fruity metaphor for a school. This is my vision of a school in year 7. You all arrive like different fruits and you gather together and make new friends, higgledy-piggledy in a bunch like this. By year 8 though, you've been sorted, and my grouping tries to reflect that. A couple of tangerines together, a couple of apples and a couple of pears. And then as you move higher up the school, perhaps this happens. You get sorted further and you cluster with the people who are just like you. The people with the same backgrounds as you, who had the same books read to them when they were young. If you're apples, and if you're pears, well, your parents might have read to you, but you shared quite a few common things, maybe the make of car or where you live or what sort of jobs your parents do. Or here, maybe your parents didn't read to you at all and you're never really into reading. And your parents might have been in work, or they might not have done, and they might have stayed in education but they won't have gone to university, and some of this lot will, and all of that lot will. And that's what happens. Well, your view of education might be different from mine. I started teaching and I thought schools would be like this. But actually I found that's rarely true. And I think that's what this poem is trying to grapple with. Well, our first problem is irony. So how is this word good being used? Are the teachers in this poem good people? Or is this being used ironically? They ought to be good people because of the influence they have on the students they're teaching, but actually they're not good at all. The first thing we notice about the teachers, I think, is that they're all female. And Duffy may be making some sort of comment about what female teachers are like. Here they appear virtuous, but this could also be used ironically, because the first thing these virtuous women do is size you up. They judge you. They sort you into apples, pears and tangerines. So I didn't have any oranges. And where do they size you up from? The front row. This is literally where they're sitting in the photograph, but also a signal of what their status is, or at least what they think their status is. They think they belong in the front row. And then let's look at the first teacher mentioned, Miss Ross. She will take you for double history. Is this double a good thing? Well, let's find out what kind of revenge the speaker has. You breathe on the glass, making a ghost of her, as though wishing her dead. And so this is the glass covering the photograph, and she's breathed her breath onto it, which has misted it, and this creates a ghostly image. Remembering her school days, she now blurts out some of the perhaps meaningless terms that were taught to her: South Sea bubble, defenestration of Prague. But these may go beyond the meaningless. The South Sea bubble was a massive delusion where shares were inflated beyond any kind of value they could possibly have had, and this led to a massive stock market crash in the 1700s. And the defenestration of Prague, defenestration means to throw out of the window, was also an illusion where a government was overthrown and forced to jump from the windows, but actually the windows were only on the first floor, and it was an entirely symbolic gesture. It wasn't real. And perhaps Duffy is questioning whether education is real here. Are students being taught valuable subjects, or are they in fact being taught their place in society? They've been sized up and sorted. They are not on the front row. That's the teacher's place, and the status of students is far behind. One teacher stands out, Miss Pirrie, and we're not told if she's any good as a teacher, although she must be one of the good teachers because she's included in this list. But the speaker loves Miss Pirrie, and possibly that's because of her subject. She's obviously an English teacher because the student has to memorise this poem, The River's Tale by Rudyard Kipling. It's also possible that the speaker's serious and passionate approach to the lessons is mirroring Miss Pirrie's behaviour, And this could be, if you like, a recipe for what a good teacher is. Interestingly, this teacher has to be kind and intelligent, but also cruel. And that's an interesting mix, isn't it? And it's at the heart of many of the contradictions in this poem. But this second verse also suggests that the main quality that a teacher needs is to inspire the student. And there's that personal connection, that feeling of love. And the final expression of love, how love is returned here, is through poetry. And so the student has been given love for poetry through the teaching of the teacher, but also love for what that teacher has done. And this, of course, is an impossible task, isn't it? You can't ask your teachers to inspire you to that extent, or at least not all 30 students in the class. It's just simply impossible. In the third verse, we meet the teachers who are not good, and they're reduced merely to a few catchphrases. Comment vous appelez? Equal to the square of the other two sides. Dar es Salaam, Kilimanjaro. These are teachers who have names, but they're denied identity. And it's probably because they keep repeating the same things to their students. We get the idea that their teaching is all about rote learning. But hold on a minute. Didn't Miss Pirrie teach rote learning here? The River's Tale by Rudyard Kipling. Yes, she did. But a poem is something different. It actually affects the heart. Once you learn a poem, it stays alive inside you. And there are loads of different interpretations you bring to it. It comes back when you least expect it. The words that you remember come back to haunt you. But even your good teachers are not wholly good. These ones swish down the corridor in long brown skirts. They're conventional, they're boring, they're hidden. That's why the skirts are long. And worse, they're snobbish. And their pride is not something that we should cherish. It's not something that we should emulate and look up to, because it's linked so clearly to their snobbishness. Yes, but despite that, they're also clean and qualified. But these two things here sound almost like a threat, as though these teachers are armed against the students that they're teaching, protected against them, and also attacking them through their pride and their snobbishness. And we're reminded again of those words in the first row, that the teachers sit in the front row and see their status as all important, and the students as far below. And of course the poem might end there. It certainly coheres, it makes sense to there, and it has a kind of finality to it. But no, Duffy instead switches the focus onto the student, and they've got your number. Here she's critical of the speaker, or the speaker is critical of herself. You roll the waistband of your skirt over and over, and obviously there's an element of promiscuity here, trying to grow up too quickly, but the repetition of over and over also reminds us of how often she's probably been told not to do it, and how steadfastly she refuses, as well as indicating quite how short the skirt is going to be. And the student, who ideally would be all brains and all study, is here all leg, and instead of being all intelligence, is all dumb, the double meaning of dumb there as stupid. And who is the you here? The you obviously is the speaker, but can it also be the reader? Is Duffy expecting the readers of this poem to have had a similar kind of childhood and come to this kind of poetry late? It seems very unlikely, doesn't it? This isn't a common experience that her readers, at least her adult readers, will have, although it may be a common experience that many of her students, or many students today, are forced to have by being made to study Duffy. You won't pass, you could do better. I wonder how many people have had that said about them in their school reports, or by a teacher, or at parents' evening. I could name dozens myself. But There's the wall you climb into dancing. And here again is the idea of the forbidden, that the speaker is attracted to breaking the rules just for the sake of breaking them, but also because behind the rules are where the good things are kept, the dancing, the love bites, the marriage. And it's interesting how these are things that girls aspire to, and particularly girls possibly in the 60s, when Duffy was a girl, and then the secure job at the Building Society, Cheltenham and Gloucester. And so in the final verse, a sorting has occurred again. Here are your students who are not necessarily academic, and certainly don't have any background in education in their family, and they leave school with qualifications that aren't very marketable, and they get low-paid jobs. And then here you get students who come from a mixed sort of background. They might have very intelligent parents who aren't especially educated, or they might have parents who are educated but not well paid, probably haven't gone to university, but they might aspire to themselves. And then here you've got students whose parents did go to university and have had many opportunities and are excited for their own children to get the same. Well, what kind of student is the one in the poem? She sounds like one of these, highly intelligent, very able, but who doesn't have that background, and therefore doesn't have the experience of thinking, yes, I can do that, I can go to university, I can have any job I want, I can achieve. No, instead, she thinks I need the security of marriage, I need romance, I need a man to complete me. I'm not complete without the conventions that society says I have to have. And in school we suppose that that's the way we want our pupils to progress. We want them all to become apples. We want them to become committed to education and to achieve as much as they can, go to university and have a fulfilled life. But Duffy may not see it that way at all. Look at this last line. The day you'll be sorry, one day. So the character here is actually very happy with the life they've chosen. Education hasn't been a barrier. She's been able to escape the educational wall. She's escaped the good teachers, the snobbish and the proud. She's escaped the virtuous ones, and she's actually got the life that she wants. She'll be sorry one day, but not now, not yet. And what will she be sorry for? It's unspecified. We're all sorry about some things, aren't we? But this has been postponed for our speaker. She is actually living a fulfilled life. And the fact that she doesn't have a university education and hasn't done better educationally has not detracted from that. And then again, let's contrast that to the teachers who have had the university education. Well, look at them. Snobbish, proud, boring in their long brown skirts, or worse than that, reduced to these kind of cliches here. And unmarried, miss. They don't have the fulfillment that the speaker is after. They don't have children, they don't have families. And so in the end, I think the poem asks, what is education for? And why study? And it seems to be this. It's something for the heart, not the mind. It's something to be passionate about. It's trying to find the one thing that will bring fulfillment to the student's life. And perhaps this is a completely romantic ideal, and it's not one that everyone could share, but perhaps she is suggesting that poetry is a way through to it, and that's why it's the poem here that's foregrounded as the thing that is the expression and reward of love. And so Duffy may be saying, well, here you are, take my poem, enjoy the fruits of my labours, and make of it what you will. I fancy a pear.